The views and opinions expressed on any program are those of the producers and/or the persons appearing on the program, and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of FRC Media, Bristol Community College, or the City of Fall River.
Well, hello. Welcome to Spindle City Straight Talk. I'm Chip.
And I'm CJ.
Hope you all had a good holiday. Monday, we're back on Wednesday, and we have a guest. But before we do, got to address quickly, because you know we always talk about following the money and about the taxes, and we care about the average citizen of Fall River who's struggling with never-ending tax increases and fee increases. And if you didn't see last night's council meeting, please look at the replay. Our crack financial team did not know how much a collective bargaining agreement cost. And I will tell you, not from theory, but because I've gone to the Joint Labor Management Commission twice against the city for a contract collective bargaining agreement. The first element you have to prove when you take the city to arbitration is ability to pay. So in order to prove ability to pay, you have to know how much something costs. And for our financial team to say they don't know how much a contract costs, they're not doing their job. Because remember, being on the bargaining committee isn't the only part of bargaining. Costing out every single thing on a contract is a necessary part of every contract negotiation. If every single demand we ever made, we had it costed out to the penny, and the city would cost it out. So remember, when Bob Connors used to go up and he actually affixed a monetary amount to what 1% of a pay raise would mean to the city and to the taxpayers. For a financial team to say they weren't involved in the negotiations is either a half-truth, and if it is the truth, they're not doing their job. Because I'm not saying that Mary Sahadi or Kathy Ann should be sitting at the bargaining table, but they should be costing out every single element that's proposed, as we always did, and as I did numerous times, not only in front of the JLMC, but every single contract I negotiated, and I also consulted with other unions on certain contracts. The first element of a contract negotiation is to cost it out. Know every single penny that contract is going to cost the city and the city's taxpayers. You cannot negotiate without knowing that fact. Oh, incompetence again rears its ugly head in the city of Fall River. Then to add that, they're reading contract language that is totally ridiculous. And Sean Kadim was right in his interpretation, but we're not going to belabor it right now. And the only other thing I want to hit on is, again, a financial team shows its inability to know anything about anything except how to get a pay raise. Mary Sahadi actually said that they're transferring $1 million because they're hoping nobody gets sick this spring. Really? I guess her job as an actuarial just got blown up, because you've got to be conservative with things like this. I cannot believe a city employee who's commissioned to worry about the money of the city of Fall River actually said in front of a television camera that the reason that they're going to free this money up to transfer was they're hoping that people don't get sick. Well, I hope I hit the lottery this week too, but I don't think it's going to happen, and I'm not going to base my budget on it, believe me. So with that, and without further ado, unless CJ's got a comment, no.
I'm fine.
Without further ado, I'm going to introduce our guest today. Today, there was no miscommunication about the time. And we have a mayoral candidate who's very well known, unlike our last candidate. This is why I like this format, getting to know the candidates and giving them their first visit without getting into a whole bunch of specific questions, giving them the time to introduce themselves. But one of the most visible and well-known candidates in the race, former city council president, sitting city councilor, Joseph Camara. Welcome, Joe.
Thank you, Chip. Thank you for having me. I thank CJ for having me as well. I want to thank Spindle City Straight Talk for having me, and FRC Media for having me as well. I want to thank you for the opportunity.
It's a pleasure. This is your, as I told you, and with the other candidates, this is your thing. This is kind of a free 20 minutes for you can expand, talk as little or as much as you want on any particular subject about why you should be mayor and what your vision is to turn this city into a viable community again.
So we want to reminisce as we have in the past.
Well, reminisce, yeah.
So let me first begin by, as much as Chip may know a lot about me, a lot of people in Fall River, I'm not sure, do know a lot about me. And I was born and raised in Fall River. I lived here my entire life. My wife also was born and raised in Fall River, lived here her entire life. We were very fortunate to buy a piece of property, and we got married and raised 3 children. We own a home. We pay taxes. We pay the water bill. We do everything that people do in the city of Fall River for the most part. Not that everyone's a homeowner, but I mean, we do what we have to do. And when I first ran for city council back quite some time ago, I think Chipper was very active, union president back then, and the firefighter, very respected in the community, very respected by his colleagues. We saw that the city wasn't heading in the right direction. I saw that. I was watching the council meetings, and I said, you know what, I'm not going to sit back and do nothing. I'm not that type of person. I've always been involved in the community. I've always been someone that, if I'm going to lead by example. If I'm going to show people, I'm going to talk about what's going wrong, I have to do something that's going to make it right. So I ran for public office. I was very fortunate to get elected to the city council, and I've been there ever since. And it's funny because people say you've been there for a long time, but the fact of the matter is I only serve a 2-year term. Every 2 years, I have to go back to the taxpayers of Fall River, the residents of this community, and explain to them and tell them what I've done, what I want to do, and what I'm going to do to get reelected. But I don't make political promises. I don't turn around and say, if I get elected, I'm going to do this, or I'm going to do that, I'm going to do that. I promise to do the best job I can. I research all the issues thoroughly. I look at what's going on. I see what direction we want to go in, and I fight for that cause. And I fight for things that are going to be a detriment to this community as well. That's something I've always done. People see through the council meetings that I fight for what I believe in. I fight for the good of the city, and I fight people who want to come into this community and do us harm. And that's what I'm going to continue to do as your mayor and as someone who has said, you know, we're not sure right now what direction the city is going in. There's a lot of uncertainty that's happening in the mayor's office today, and more to come. So I'm not going to sit back as a councilor and just say, okay, who do I trust most to do the best job in the city when I feel that I am capable of, and I know the people involved, I know how the government works, I know how all aspects of the government works, I know the finances of the city better than most, I know a lot of things that we've been working on, I know a lot of issues that we want to work on, and I've been part of those things. I've been part of the creation of a lot of good things that has happened in this community, and I want to continue to be part of that, continuing to be part of that, those good things that are happening in this community, because I think I know what I'm doing and what I'm talking about.
Well, yeah, that's a good opening, and while we're on that, we can kind of, unless you've got something specific you really want to get to quickly.
You can ask me the questions you want.
Well, no, it's really not a question. It's kind of more of a statement because, you know, we know that the campaign is going to get rolling a little bit quicker now, and as you said. It's kind of a double-edged sword being on the city council because, you know some of your opponents are going to say, well, you've been here X number of years and, you know, why haven't you done this? And even though we try to always tell our people that, you know, the mayor, the mayor proposes and the council disposes, you have a different role. But I hearken back, and you've been around a long time as CJ and I have, and we remember an election many years ago when the former president of the city council, Bill Whitty, ran against Ed Lambert. And Ed Lambert said, well, you supported virtually everything I did, so why are you running against me?
Sure.
So you know that people are going to say, well, your opponents are going to say, well, you've been on a council, a whole bunch of years, and so why haven't you done more? So in your mind, just explain, because you know that this is going to come up, and we'd like to give you the opportunity to be able to speak to this at length.
Sure, this is a great question, and it's a great intro, but let's face it, I have been there for a long time, and for a long time, we've made a lot of progress in this community. I mean, if you look at what we've done from an educational point of view, we built 10 new schools at 90% reimbursement, saved the taxpayers of this community millions of dollars that we would not have had an opportunity to save had we not taken advantage of the state program that was in place to build new schools in the communities and to give the students and teachers state-of-the-art equipment, heating facilities, modern cafeterias, classroom sizes with new technology that they didn't have before. That's something that I'm very proud to have been a part of. I also was, when we would drive around back in the day and we'd drive by the former Kerr Mill site that burnt down, that piece of property was vacant for years and years and years, and everyone said, what are we, the city, going to do about that property? Well, it was privately owned. There wasn't a lot that the city could do, but through economic development, we took that land by eminent domain. We created the ATMC that is there now, partnering with UMass Dartmouth at the time, and we made room for Meditech to come to a facility like that. That's something that you do through the years. We created Commerce Park up in the airport, when at the time there were 6 planes, there was a private runway that they were using there. We knew that we were running out of industrial space and commercial space to grow our businesses and provide a place for our people to work and companies to come, and we've provided thousands of jobs and thousands of dollars in tax revenues on an annual basis by creating Commerce Park. The industrial park was getting full to capacity, and there was very few acreage left for sale up there. We also created the biopark, which is something that we're working on right now, and look what happened. Because we put that piece together and a permit process in place, and we built a highway ramp to make it easier for people in the industrial park to use the biopark for on and off exit off the highway, Amazon came to this community. We put those things in place through the years, knowing that if we do what's right and we give the opportunity for people to come here, they will see that Fall River is a great place to live, is a great place to raise a family, as I have done, and many others, and is a great place to bring your company to and have business here, because we have a first-class working people in this community. People in this community are very hard workers, and they get shortchanged a lot. And then when I talk to other people who say, and I ask them, why did you bring your company here, which many people have located their company here, we have underutilized our city so much by not telling people the potential of all the colleges and universities that surround Fall River within 25 miles. The access that we have to engineers and educators and technicians and people who graduate from college every year from schools that are only 20 miles or less, Providence College, Brown University, Bryant College, Bridgewater State University, Salve Regina, Roger Williams, UMass, Dartmouth, BCC, Massasoit Community College, Dean College. There are so many colleges and universities within the surrounding area of Fall River where people say, well, you know, the educational attainment in Fall River is not that great. Well, let me tell you, it's getting a lot better. We are sending children from the local high schools to the best colleges and universities in the country, more and more of them every year, and I'm very proud of that. Something that we've worked on, we continue to work on, and Fall River is not the same Fall River that it was 25, 30 years ago. We've made a lot of progress, and getting back to how I've been there for so long working on those things, you're right, I have been. And my relationship with the mayor was a good relationship, and it still, to some point, is a good relationship when it comes to doing what's best for the city. But what's happened to him has made me look at why would I want to sit back, not knowing what his future is going to be. Right now, the instability that exists in our community and government center, no one knows what tomorrow will bring. No one knows what's going to happen to that individual tomorrow or the next day or the week after. So the voters went out. They were not happy when that took place, and they had people sign a recall petition. So there was going to be an election on March 12th. And I said, I'm not going to sit back and see another individual or someone new come here who has no experience in how the government works, who is unfamiliar with who the people are involved in putting this community in the right place. I'm not going to sit back and say, well, no, I'm just going to sit here again and be a city councilor over and over and just have to show someone and give them the insight and the opinion and the advice that I have when I can do that job quicker, faster, and easier than anyone else that's on this ballot. And that's why I decided to run for mayor.
Well, that's a nice, see, and this is what I say, isn't it nice not to have a 1-minute ability? And that's why we structured it. But while you're on that, again, that brings us into that issue. You know, as I said, it can be used as a double-edged sword.
Sure.
You've been on and you supported a lot of things, but right. The reality is, people could say, well, you know, you went along with the stuff because it was a good idea. But now as mayor, you are going to be the captain of the ship.
Correct.
You know, and so, you know, Fall River has, and you defined a lot of good things that have happened in Fall River.
Sure.
But as the captain of the ship, you're going to have to come up with some ideas, and you're going to lead.
Yeah,
you're going to be a leader.
Let's just say, when I say it's a good idea, I don't mean it's someone else's idea. A lot of these good ideas are my ideas.
I know, well,
when I do what I do. City council is someone who consults. We give advice and we tell the mayor and the administration, this is what I think we should do. So when they jump on board and other of my colleagues jump on board, we promote it. I mean, like, let's say this mayor's taking credit for eliminating the $120 fee that Sam Sutter put in place. No one fought Sam Sutter on that $120 fee more than I did. I did it during the budget. I told him that the fee wasn't needed. I told him that we were not, as he was claiming, in a $6 million deficit. That never occurred. But yet he made those statements over and over, which was leading the public to believe that he inherited a $6 million deficit. I told him point blank, publicly, privately, over and over, everywhere I went, and I did it on the council floor more than any other councilor. I was the council president at the time. We do not have a $6 million deficit. Please stop telling people that we have one. And I would ask the financial team, I'd ask former Mayor Sutter, what department is this $6 million deficit in? And he could never identify it. And he said that's what he was being told from people outside the city, people in high positions from outside the city, that the city is on the verge of receivership. Something I never believed. The only problem we had back then was the same problem we have now, is that there are a lot of things happening in the mayor's office that people were upset about. His right-hand man, Mr. Pacheco, came to the council and said the city is a mess. And I told him, financially, we are not a mess. We are doing a lot of great things in this community. The only mess we have is the mess that's going on with individuals who have run for mayor and are running for mayor because it's a political mess, nothing more. We need to get away from the political mess. We need to have someone in that office that the people have trust in, people have faith in, and the people know are going to do what's right for the city of Fall River. And right now, that's not happening.
Well, that's, you know, and I agree. It's hard not to it's hard to disagree with that perspective. But as the mayor, and I wasn't saying that you didn't, you know, you have spearheaded things you have been for and against, and we've agreed and disagreed. That's part of politics. Right. You can disagree.
We agreed a lot more than we disagreed.
Yeah, yeah. But the reality is that this is the point that I'm making now. And you did define a lot of good things. I mean, you know, I stood in front of Kerrmill when it was burning down, and you know, almost had my helmet burnt off. And so I know that was derelict for a while. I've seen a lot of the things. Sure. But as the mayor, you've highlighted a lot of the good things. But let's look at some of the other things that people are talking about. Look, we was just voted the most dangerous city in the state of Massachusetts. We were the second most in New England. We see, you know, drugs and problems. We have tremendous problems too, as you said, in every city. But we have, as you said, in many cases we have gotten better over the last 25 years. But in many areas. And a lot of and you know the community, I don't have to explain it to you. You know we have a lot of elderly. You have one of the highest populations of elderly people in the state and maybe in the nation. And these people, when I talk to them, they're afraid to walk around on the streets. We have shell casings every other day. There's stabbings. And that's another thing that works as a negative for the city of Fall River. Every time we're on the media for something like a shooting or a murder or a stabbing. And as the mayor, you know, that's another part. And obviously, your ideas, you can articulate the next time you're on the show, you can give us your complete ideas of the positives. But these are issues that are critical to the people I see.
So let's talk about that.
What are you going to? Yeah. What are we going to do? What's Joe Camara going to do?
We had a public meeting, public safety committee meeting yesterday, and we talked to the chief. And we've had 2 murders in the city of Fall River this year. 2. Both of those cases were individuals that not only knew each other, but in one case were related to each other. When one person stabs another person over a relative, how do you expect the Fall River Police Department to stop that? That's something that's never going to be avoidable. People come to the point where, for some reason, over a ridiculous issue, they take someone's life. And that's a cousin of an individual that, you know, his own cousin. The Fall River Police Department can't stop that. Violent crimes and robberies in our community are on the decline. And that's something that the Fall River Police Department has been doing a very good job of. So we understand that we're probably never going to stop crime in a sense, and you agree with that, but the fact of the matter is that we do a good job of stopping crime before it happens in a lot of communities, in a lot of areas in our cities, because we have things like the walking beat that we implement, the bicycle patrol, we have the vice unit out there. So we are doing as much as possible to stop the crimes in this community, but a city like Fall River and Brockton and Taunton, New Bedford, unfortunately, you're always gonna get a higher percentage of crime. We are doing as much as we can to crack down on drugs and all of those issues, because that's what most of the crime comes through. It's through drugs and through people from outside this community that come in here to try to peddle their drugs and try to take territories over. And what we do is we see the situation, and I'm not saying we prevent it 100%, because nothing's going to be prevented 100%, but we do a much better job than a lot of other communities. Fall River is not as dangerous a community as it's perceived to be by other people. And I see the listings, people say, you know, it's not a safe place to do, but the number of crimes we have and the way that data's been recorded has to change, because other communities don't use the same statistics as recording that data, and it makes us look a lot worse than they are. And the fact of the matter is that we don't have the violent crimes that the city of New Bedford has, and I'm not going to talk bad about New Bedford, but they've had more murders and more violent crimes than we've had, and that's a proven statistic.
Well, that's a problem, Joe, and you know it. You know, figures don't lie, but lie. You know, statistics are always been manipulated by police and fire. When they want to show that crimes on an increase because they want more money. If they arrest a guy with 8 warrants, they charge him with 8 separate crimes, and they consider that 8 different arrests.
And that's,
if they don't,
and those are the type of things that we do.
See, the thing I'm talking about is that, look, we're not saying, and nobody has more respect. I worked with police officers my whole career. Yep. You know, it is a, you know, anybody that puts a uniform on, a police or firefighter's uniform, and goes to work, or a corrections officer, knows that when they go to work and if they do everything right, they could die in the line of duty. And I've gone to too many funerals in my career. But the reality is that you're right. Some murders and most murders in the world happen, but within families. We know that's a statistic. But then again, we can't discount the fact that there are many situations where we're lucky to lousy shots. We got people running down. I mean, we find shell casings all over the city.
I agree. Listen,
and I'm not saying a police, and we can't put a cop on everything.
Correct.
But what do we do? What do we do to try to help
I
this?
agree.
You know?
And you're right. And I didn't mean to go off on that tangent.
No. But I'm just
I agree. So what we've done is, listen, since the 9C cuts took place back in 2008, when those 9C cuts took place, it hurt our public safety departments in both fire and police. We understand that. The state was in trouble. The country was in trouble. We had 9C cuts. We had to make drastic changes and decisions. But ever since those cuts were implemented, we have added more police, more fire on a regular basis, and we're going to continue to add more police and fire. And I'm proud of the fact that we've put approximately 40 people back on the force, because that's the key. The key is to beef up your police department and give them the tools that they need. They now have radios, which they didn't have a few years ago. They now have cruisers that are in good operating conditions, where they didn't have as many and good operating conditions as it was before. When I first got on the council, police cruisers were being towed on a regular basis. You can remember that. Fire apparatus. A firefighter fell off the back of a fire truck. It was 25 years old, and the back seat broke and fell. And before I even got on the council, those are the things that made me run for council. I saw what was the apparatus situation was, and I saw what was happening to our community. And if you can't protect the residents of your community, then you don't have a community. If you don't have a safe city, then you don't have a city at all. Who wants to live under that chaos? So what I've done as a city councilor is promote to put more manpower on the streets, more than we've ever had, and we're working towards that goal. And every year we continue to add 5, 4, 6, 5. We got another class coming in, another 7 in a few weeks, and then there's another academy's going to start up with about 10 more candidates in April. So I am all for putting more police presence on the street. I think that's a big solution, putting them in the right areas. In the past, when we saw a lot of drug activity in one neighborhood or another neighborhood, we would introduce Operation Blue Thunder, which is a good thing. We had going after people and putting people that have outstanding warrants out, and we'd arrest them. That's what we need to continue to do, identify the areas, we know where they are. We're also putting in more cameras than ever before in our community so that we can help identify and catch these people when they're committing these crimes. And Fall River, like I said, it's not perfect, but we're working to fix it as quick as possible, and we're doing everything we can. I know I'm doing everything we can. I've never denied the police department or the fire department $1 when it comes to protecting our citizens. I will always vote to increase manpower and give them the equipment and the tools they need to do their job, because like I said earlier, if you can't provide safety to a community, you don't have a community. You have nothing. Nothing else matters if you can't make sure that people in this community not only feel safe, but are safe. It's one thing to feel safe and not be safe, but we want to make sure that they are safe. And unfortunately, when something happens, like shootings happen and that type of things, it is going to make the news. It is going to make people give us another black eye. And our city has to stop that. We have to stop hurting the image of our community because too many people suffer. Too many decisions are being made based on the image of our community. And I'll tell you right now, 99% of the people I know in this community and people who live in this community are law-abiding citizens. They do the right thing. They go to work every day. They provide for their family. They don't break the law. And it's the few individuals that are here and come to this community that continue to break the laws over and over and over, and we're taking care of them and apprehending them. So crime is going down, which is a good thing, but we want to make sure that we maintain that level.
Well, that's a point, but the thing is, and obviously with police, we can't put a police officer on, and I agree we need more police, but there comes a point where the National Fire Protection Association firefighters will tell you you cannot man any fire department based on the worst case scenario. We're going to have a mill fire every week. So you have to find that medium.
Correct.
We're going to hit a time where our department is as big as it can get. We can't put a police officer on every block.
We're not there yet.
And I agree. We need more.
Sure, we will take care of it.
The thing is that what I hear from the community, and I'll let you weigh in, obviously, because we only got 4 minutes, but what I hear is, and I agree, because as you know, I know a lot of people, and most of the people I know are hardworking people and everything else. But they see that between the housing authority, advertising, and people coming in, a lot of the crime we see when these people are arrested, they're Fall River residents. But if you check, they're not. They just got here. They either come into the drug rehab and stay here, or they're coming into the housing authority. And I mean, do you have any kind of plan to try to stem this tide? Because we want to bring in people that are going to contribute to our city.
No, I agree 100%. Listen, not only do I have a plan, but I've done it before. I was part of the effort to reduce the public housing when we turned down with Tupper Heights. I went to Boston and testified in front of the committees there, and I told them point blank, Fall River is doing and has done more than its fair share to provide housing for people in need. And our residents pretty much are in a situation where right now we're going to help some elderly people in a high-rise where you just had a recently new owner, and we're going to put these people and provide for them to affordable housing so they can stay living in their homes. These are not the people that are committing crimes, and these are the people that we need to take care of. The good, hard-working, honest citizens that already have that assistance. What we want to stop is, like you said, people who don't have anywhere to live in their surrounding areas, and they look at the city of Fall River as a place that they can find an apartment because the rest of the communities and the rest of the cities in Massachusetts refuse to create more public housing that is needed, not in Fall River, but in their areas. We're well above the state average. We have done more than any other community has done as far as providing a good place for people to live. Now, we stopped with Tupper Heights and we reduced 100 units, and I was part of that back with Ed Lambert and Bob Correa when we took on that task. Wasn't an easy thing to do, but we were able to do it. But the rest of the community has to do their fair share. And the same thing with the opioid crisis. We have expansions and we provide services for these people, but other communities throughout Fall River have to do their fair share of providing for the people in their community that need the help. Because the only people come here to Fall River to find housing because their local community doesn't have it for them. So that's something that as mayor, I'm going to promote to the governor and everything else and our state reps, that we need to start coming up with laws that mandate or make sure that other communities do what Fall River has done, take care of the people in their community that need to be taken care of, and not just provide a turnover place for people who want to come here, do some harm, and then leave.
Okay, that's
not what I'm going to do. It's what I've done. It's
not the 1 minute debate answer, and that's what we want. We want you to get in and explain. That was good. We're running short of time. All right. We'll be back on again to talk more specifics. But if you want, make your close. Say what you feel like you'd say for the last minute or two.
Sure. I'll keep it real simple. My name is Joseph Camara. I've been a city councilor. I've been a lifelong resident of the city of Fall River. I'm a city councilor as well. And I want to thank you again, Chipper, and I want to thank you, CJ, as well. And I want to thank the Spindle City Straight Talk show and FRC Media for having me here today. The upcoming election is a very important one for the future of our city. It is. We need to bring back stability to our community, especially in the mayor's office, and we also need to bring back stability with experience. I have the experience necessary to do what's right for the city. I've been doing it. I've been very fortunate that the people of this community have put their faith and trust in me as a councilor to do what's best for this community, and as your mayor, I'm going to continue to do that. On March 12th, I respectfully ask for your vote for Mayor of the City of Fall River. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Joe. It was a pleasure having you.
My pleasure.